It was supposed to be a night of luxury, laughter, and light entertainment. A grand corporate gala filled with shimmering gowns, champagne glasses, and the quiet hum of polished conversation. The chandeliers above glowed like captured stars, their reflection dancing off the golden walls of the ballroom. But beneath all that grandeur, beneath the sparkling surface of wealth and elegance, something unexpected was about to happen, something so real, so raw, that it would silence the laughter and bring tears to the eyes of the man everyone thought had forgotten how to feel. Before we begin this story, take a deep breath and feel it with your heart. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty hidden behind pain, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us bring you more true stories that remind the world what it means to be human. Her name was Lena, and she had never belonged in that room. She stood out from the moment she entered, not because of her beauty, but because of her simplicity. She wore a plain white blouse tucked into a faded red dress, the kind that looked charmingly out of place among the glittering designer gowns. Her shoes were slightly scuffed, and her hair was tied neatly in a bun, though a few loose strands betrayed the nervous tremor running through her. Lena wasn't an employee of the company that hosted the gala. She worked as a part-time cleaner for the event management firm hired that night. She had been sweeping the corners of the ballroom since morning, setting tables, folding napkins, and trying to stay invisible. Yet fate, or perhaps cruelty, has a way of pushing the invisible into the spotlight. When the night reached its peak and the host suggested some entertainment, one of the company's senior managers, a man with a cruel sense of humor, noticed her quietly standing by the piano, wiping its surface with a soft cloth. With a mocking grin, he turned to the Billionaire CEO, Mr. Raymond Hale, and said, "How about we let the maid play something for us? I bet she knows at least chopsticks." Laughter rippled across the room. Glasses clinked, eyes turned toward Lena, and in that moment she froze. Every instinct told her to shake her head and leave, but the host, perhaps feeling the energy of the crowd, encouraged it. "Come on, young lady, don't be shy. Let's hear a tune from you." For a second, she stood perfectly still, her fingers gripping the edge of the piano. The humiliation burned inside her like a small fire, but something stronger than shame began to rise. A memory, fragile but powerful, of her mother's voice. Her mother had once been a piano teacher before illness stole her away too soon. Every night before bed, she would whisper to Lena, "Never let anyone silence your song, my little bird." So Lena sat down. Her hands trembled, her heart raced, and for a few seconds the ballroom filled with awkward chuckles and muffled jokes. But when she placed her fingers on the keys, the laughter died. The first notes were soft, hesitant, like a child learning to speak. Then the sound deepened, spreading through the room with haunting beauty. She played a melody that wasn't classical, nor something familiar. It was raw, personal, the kind of music that comes from a soul that has suffered quietly. Every note carried a story, the ache of loneliness, the loss of a mother, the exhaustion of working double shifts, the quiet dignity of a dream never voiced aloud. The audience began to fall silent. Forks stopped clinking. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the chandeliers seemed to listen. The melody swelled, filled with the warmth of light breaking through darkness. Some felt it in their chests like a heartbeat. Others felt it in their eyes as tears they didn't expect. And among them, standing closest to her, was Mr. Raymond Hale. Raymond was known as a man made of steel, a billionaire whose success had come from ruthless decisions and relentless discipline. He had built his empire by never showing weakness. But as he listened to Lena play, something inside him cracked. The melody reminded him of his late wife, who had loved music deeply, who had tried to teach their daughter piano before the accident that took them both away. He hadn't heard music in his mansion since that day. Now, as Lena's fingers moved across the keys, every memory he had buried came rushing back, the laughter of his little girl, the smell of his wife's perfume, the sound of lullabies echoing through the hallways of a home that had long gone silent. His eyes glistened, and he clenched his hands together, as if holding onto the fragments of a past he had spent years trying to forget. Around him, Guests watched in stunned silence, some with tears, others simply lost in thought. When Lena's final note faded into the air, the room remained utterly still. For several seconds, no one dared to move or speak. Then, one by one, the guests began to clap, softly at first, then louder, rising into a standing ovation that filled the Golden Hall with thunderous applause. Lena stood up slowly, unsure what to do. She hadn't played for applause. She had played because she needed to, because for a brief moment she wanted her mother to hear her again. But before she could step away, Mr. Hale approached her. His expression was unreadable, his eyes red but filled with something deeper than pity. Respect, gratitude, recognition. He took a deep breath and said, "That was the most beautiful thing I've heard in years." His voice trembled, and the crowd watched as this powerful man, the one who commanded boardrooms and headlines, wiped a tear from his face. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the laughter had faded into whispers, Mr. Hale called Lena aside. He asked her about her life, about where she had learned to play. She told him about her mother, about how she used to sneak into a church basement after her cleaning shifts just to touch a piano. She had never had lessons beyond what her mother taught her before she died. Something shifted in Mr. Hale's eyes as he listened, a mix of regret and awe. Without hesitation, he offered her a scholarship to study music at one of the most prestigious conservatories in the city. When she tried to refuse, saying she couldn't afford even the time to dream, he simply smiled and said, "You've already paid the price, through every struggle that led you here tonight." That night marked the beginning of a new chapter in both their lives. Lena began her training under some of the best musicians in the country. Every performance she gave carried that same sincerity, that same truth that had silenced the ballroom. The newspapers began writing about the girl who played for the billionaire and made him cry. But to Lena, it wasn't fame that mattered. It was the quiet joy of keeping her mother's promise alive, never letting anyone silence her song. Meanwhile, Raymond Hale changed in ways no one had expected. The man who once measured life only in profits began funding music programs for orphan children. He opened a foundation named after his late wife and daughter, the Melody of Hope Trust, with Lena as its ambassador. Every year, at the same ballroom where it all began, they hosted a charity concert. Lena played the piano once more, not as a cleaner or a servant, but as a celebrated artist. And every time she played, Raymond sat in the front row, listening with his heart full, knowing that through her music, the voices he had lost could sing again. Years later, when journalists asked Lena what gave her the courage to play that night, despite the ridicule, she simply smiled and said, "Because I wasn't playing to impress anyone. I was playing to remember someone." Her story spread across social media, inspiring millions. People who had been mocked, underestimated, or dismissed found hope in her journey. They saw proof that sometimes, even the cruelest joke can lead to the most beautiful moment, if you dare to turn pain into melody. So many people walk through life carrying hidden symphonies inside them, afraid to let the world hear their music because someone once made them feel small. But Lena's story reminds us that no heart is too humble, no dream too distant, and no pain too deep to be transformed into something beautiful. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your support helps us share more stories of resilience, kindness, and redemption that the world desperately needs right now. And before you go, tell us in the comments, what is your hidden talent or dream that you've kept silent for too long? Maybe it's time to let it play its own song. Because just like Lena, you never know who might be waiting to hear the music inside you.